are here today for your Regulation D tournament here on our Gym Challenge Summer Series. My name is Jesus Coronel, here joined by the Emotional Sport Pikachu and Angela Duckafairy, if I got that name correctly. And we are proud to be here today for Gym Challenge Summer number 3 here after a couple of Genie visits. And, you know, those Genie visits actually caused a lot of chaos here in the region. Thankfully, though, no damage has been caused, so we had to delay our tournament for a week, and here we are today with our first round of Sliss between Brandon Davis and Jacob Hans. And we're gonna... There's been a lot of meta development since the 2023 World Championships, if nobody's been able to see it. Basically, Chien-Pao was able to dominate the tournament, be able to win its first ever World Championships in the first year of its legality. And also, so many old Pokemon got their chance to shine, such as Landorus Therian form. We also had a Pokemon like Tornadus show up on the tournament. We have quite some wacky picks here. But here we go. We're going to start round number 1 here. We're going to see Brandon's screen here with Iron Valiant, Hisuian Goodra, Amoonguss, Landorus Therian, Urshifu Rapid Strike, and Chi-Yu. And for Jacob Hans, for his team, it is the Volcarona, Rillaboom, Landorus Therian, Azumarill, Rillaboom, and Iron Hand. So very good distinctions between these two players, where one side is leaning towards one on the defensive area with the Goodra and the Amoonguss. But both teams also have great offensive uniqueness, with the Iron Valiant for Brandon Davis, and then Jacob with the Fluttermane and the Azumarill. But also just well-rounded options as well between the two teams, like the Landorus and the Iron Hands on each side, as well as the Rillaboom for Jacob. And I believe we're going to see a very interesting set between these teams, because we don't typically see Iron Valiant that often. You know, you often see it as like an all-out attacker, where you either see it go for physical moves like Close Combat, or even go for special moves like Moonblast. You typically never know what kind of Iron Valiant you'll get to see here. And it's also really depending on what that booster energy that it's holding going to be giving the boost for. Is it going to be for a special attack boost, or is it going to be a speed boost? We'll never know. But there's also interesting techs between these two teams. You know, you have different abilities we could be using. There's also different variants and sets that could be running. But all of that said and done, we're going to see what kind of set we're going to see here. And Jacob starts the series with Iron Hand's Landorus Therian for the lead, and for Brandon's Landorus Chi-Yu. So both teams going to get an Intimidate Awe on both Pokemon. So Landorus and Iron Hand's both going to be afflicted by it severely, while Brandon is going to only have his Landorus affected by it. Chi-Yu, not so much. Beads of Ruin going to come in and roll the special defense of most Pokemon, all of Pokemon in play, but if that Iron Hand is holding an Assault Vest, that may not matter as much, as Landorus typically will probably be faster based on the Choice Scarf that Brandon's is holding. And it could go for an option like that U-turn, or even go for the flinch chances with that Rock Slide, but Iron Hands can also just equally just go for something like that Fake Out, or, you know, something like that Wild Charge or the Drain Punch into the Chi-Yu. But we're going to see Chi-Yu switch out for, I think, yeah, it's going to be Amoonguss coming in. So if it was going for the Drain Punch into the Chi-Yu slot, it's now going to get resisted, but instead just goes for the Fake Out on the Landorus, make sure it doesn't get an attack off. Flinches right there, and Landorus going to safely go for the U-turn. Although it does run into that Rocky Helmet problem, so any physical attack that makes contact with Amoonguss will take a bit of damage with that Rocky Helmet up. And Landorus not really going to appreciate it, as it goes back to its Pokeball after using that U-turn. Let's see what Jacob switches in here for the situation. It will be that Volcarona. The Volcarona here, I can see, well, typically most Volcaronas you'll see in the metagame right now typically rely on a setup move like Quiver Dance to get its special defense, special attack, and speed up a stage, so you actually get some sweeping potential. And that could be very detrimental against something like that Landorus, but it also needs to be aware of the Rock Slide here, because even though Brandon's Landorus' Choice Scarf, it never got an attack off because of that Fake Out, so you could still go for that Rock Slide, or you'll just go ahead and just go for that U-turn just to make sure you get some safe pivoting going. And we're gonna see, a double back here from the Amoonguss here. Gonna be for Brandon, and he will bring in the Chi-Yu once again. So this could be a bit dangerous against that Landorus if that Volcarona gets an attack off here, because if it goes for something like that Heat Wave, it could be potentially a lot of damage heading Landorus' way. We're going to see a Terrestrialization here for Jacob. It will be that Volcarona. It is going to be Terrestrializing into the Grass type, so Nyx, so it doesn't really help in this situation where Landers could go for a Terra Blast flying into that slot, because it could just mean that it will be taking a lot of damage anyway, but instead we're going to see a U-turn go into that Iron Hands. And now we're going to see what the Landers pivots itself into, because we're going to see it right now. It is going to be that Iron Valiant for Brandon, the shiny Iron Valiant, in a matter of fact. Volcarona here, still yet to make an attack move, or that Iron Hands to be exact as well. And we're going to see an Iron Valiant get the speed booster as Overheat comes out into the Chi-Yu, going to do almost half its health with the critical hit, but it will drop the Volcarona's special attack by 2 stages. And Iron Hand doubles into the Chi-Yu and lives on 9 HP. Takes a bit of recoil damage thanks to that Wild Charge. The Chi-Yu down to 9 HP, and now we're going to see that Iron Valiant go aggressive here with that Terastallization into the Fairy type. And it clicks Moonblast, so as we did see in the screen there, that Iron Valiant is a mix attacker, having both a physical and a special move with the Moonblast and the close combat. Volcarona here in a bit of trouble now, because it's staring at Chi-Yu that could potentially be faster than the Volcarona and get out of a Heat Wave with the Beads of Ruin. So now that it's made itself super effective against that fire type attack, it could mean the end of Volcarona's days right now, as Iron Hands can do something about this, but it needs to be wary of a Moonblast, because even though it is holding that Assault Vest, Beads of Ruin will lower that special defense stat to a point where it won't be much of a difference maker here, as we're going to see the Iron Valiant Terastallize into that Fairy type, and we're going to see how much damage it could potentially do right now with that Moonblast that it's going to be carrying. Volcarona protects, making sure it doesn't fade to a Heat Wave or something as that matter to the Chi-Yu. Iron Valiant, though, with that speed booster, going to go for that Moonblast into the Iron Hands. How much damage is it doing? Enough for a knockout. Thanks to that Beads of Ruin, the Beads of Ruin, the special defense drop as the Heat Wave hits the protect of the Volcarona. All that we see here from Jacob is that we do know he has all his Pokemon in the playing field. We did see a Landorus Iron Hands in the back. So, Iron Hands gone. Now we're going to see Landorus come back in. Intimidate may not matter here against that Iron Hands if it chooses not to go for the close combat, which probably won't be coming out. Even though this Iron Valiant does have the potential to go ahead and go for something like the Icy Wind as well to slow down the Landorus, you give that Chi-Yu enough speed to get back into a position where Heat Wave could just potentially take a double knockout because of that Beads of Ruin ability, and it looks like that's what's going to be happening potentially. Nope, we're going to see the Chi-Yu double back into the Landorus, swapping out, making sure to get that Intimidate onto that Landorus so it doesn't get any idea to go for a Stomping Tantrum or a Rock Slide. Well, Volcarona's still in danger though, because even though it is the Landorus now, you could, well, Terra Blast is no longer an option here, as we do see Icy Wind double connect on both Pokemon. A lot of damage to Landorus thanks to that quad weakness to Ice, lowering both of the Pokemon's speed for Jacob. Rock Slide missed something, it missed the Landorus, it does connect onto the Iron Valiant, but that Intimidate proving really strong here, as it doesn't do a lot of damage as it used to be, and we're going to see the Struggle Bug come out, hitting both of these Pokemon for resisted damage, but lowering the special attack on both Pokemon, making that Iron Valiant significantly weaker. And in this situation, Struggle Bug's not a bad option to go for, even though you are at -2 special attack from that Overheat. So you could just get that Volcarona into a position where you can just go ahead and support its teammates, making sure that Landorus doesn't get any much threatened by that special attack stat of that Iron Valiant. However, there is a speed drop because of the Icy Wind from Brandon's Iron Valiant. Is going to prompt the Volcarona to go for the Rage Powder here, make sure that Landorus' single target attack doesn't go into the direction of that Landorus, but instead it's going to be that Moonblast that would have been heading Landorus' way for the knockout. Instead it's going to do decent damage to the Volcarona, and when U-turn comes out, that might knock out the Volcarona. It does knock out the Volcarona. Does take a bit of damage from that Rocky Helmet, and no Flame Body trigger. So Volcarona goes down, and that's what happens when you Terastallize into a weakness of Landorus. So if you Terastallize into Flying, it doesn't help you against Terra Blast Flying, but if you Terastallize into that Grass side, you become weaker to that U-turn. And now that Intimidate's gonna stick onto that Landorus, now that it's gonna be unable to switch out here. So another Rock Slide comes out, not doing a lot of damage to either Pokemon. And the turn will be reset as Jacob has yet to reveal his last Pokemon. It is the Rillaboom. Rillaboom comes in here, going to activate that Grassy Surge, And we're gonna see here if that Iron Valley can do anything good here, because Rillaboom does have the fake out, so it could go ahead and threaten a couple of knockouts here on potentially that Iron Valley, as I don't think Amoonguss is anywhere near the danger of being knocked out here, as Iron Valley gonna switch out, not gonna want to use that special attack drop they got earlier from that Struggle Bug earlier. And we're going to see the Landorus come back here to get another Intimidate drop on both the Landorus and the Rillaboom, making them weaker, but potentially could be going for a fake out here. No, Landorus just going to go for the Rock Slide here. Does not a lot of damage. And we're going to see a knockoff go into the Amoonguss. Going to go ahead and get a bit of Rocky Helmet damage because it touched the Amoonguss on contact, but knocks off the Rocky Helmet. Oh, and a Life Orb as well. That's not good if you're going to be targeting that Amoonguss with contact moves, as it gets a Spore off onto Jacob's Landorus. And Grassy Terrain is going to go ahead and heal a bit of damage to grounded Pokemon, so making Rillaboom a bit more feasible to use with that Life Orb item it's holding. And we're going to see a U-turn go into the Rillaboom, a lot of damage there. Getting it down to that yellow, go ahead and go. Now the Landorus is going to go back to Brandon's Pokeball, specifically that Dusk Ball. And we're going to see Chi-Yu come into play, as we're going to get another Beads of Ruin Shot thanks to its survivability at 9 HP from earlier. Landorus is going to go ahead and take a first turn of sweep as it got spored the last turn. Wood Hammer goes into the Chi-Yu, so it would have been able to knock out the Landorus there, but instead Chi-Yu takes the fall. And that fall not going to be appreciated much from Brandon, as there's going to take a bit of damage from Recoil and Life Orb. Amoonguss goes for the Leaf Storm, knocks out the Landorus, so now it's theoretically a 3v1 situation for Brandon, as he has a clear shot to knock out this Rillaboom with a U-turn from that Landorus. But he also has the Iron Valiant that can just switch in and go ahead and go for the Moonblast because of how speedy it is. He could also go ahead and go for a Pollen Puff with that Amoonguss into that Rillaboom, knock it out anyway. So I think this is a checkmate position for Brandon, as we're going to see the surrender come out from Jacob, and we will advance the game too. Fantastic performance from Brandon coming in from that game one, as he goes ahead and goes up 1-0 here in this series of best of 3. So once again, I'll reiterate the best of 3 format. It's the first to 2 victories. Jacob does have a chance to come back in this game and potentially reset the set and go to 1-1, but he needs to be able to find a way to retaliate back against that Landorus Chi-Yu combination, as well as that Iron Valiant, which did a lot of damage, surprisingly, for how frail it could be. It's just, what could Jacob do here? Like, does he lead the same lead Iron Hands Landorus Therian again, or does he go for something more aggressive like that Fluttermane in the back, or even the Azumarill? I'm looking at it here. And then going after that game one, I don't know if Terrasalizing the Volcarona is necessarily the right move. I mean, it does dodge the Rock Slide, but it doesn't dodge a Terrasalize flying type Terra Blast, as we're going to see. I mean, well, that Iron Valiant never went for the Iron Valiant went for a Terrasalization first of all, so it never really had an opportunity to go for the Terra Blast flying into that Volcarona if it ever had to. Terra Blast flying, looking at it here, does a lot of damage against Jacob's team, except to that Iron Hand. And if we look at the other side for Jacob, if he were to have that Terra Blast flying, he actually hits everything for super effective or neutral, so that's a lot of damage he could be potentially doing with that Landorus. So both of them seem to be key partners for these Pokemon. It's going to be Landorus Volcarona lead for Jacob, and we're going to see the Landorus Hisuian Goodra for Brandon. So Hisuian Goodra, one of the newer Pokemon that came out from the Pokemon Home expansion, with its introduction from the Hisuian region from Pokemon Legends Arceus, is a Steel and Dragon type, unlike its Kalos counterpart, which is just a pure Dragon type. It gets a bit of a defensive boost. It gets its signature move Shelter, where it can boost its defense by 2 stages and become a much more bulkier Pokemon that can take advantage of a move such as Body Press. And we're seeing an instant Terastallization coming. I think this is from Brandon's Landorus. And even though, oh no, it is going to be the Hisuian Goodra, I'll go ahead and catch that mistake from my own end. And it's going to be the Terastallization into the Water type to try and make sure that it doesn't be weak to that Stomping Tantrum run that Landorus, as we're going to see Brandon's Landorus go into the U-turn, hits with the Rocky Helmet because it was a contact move into that Volcarona, doesn't get burned by the Flame Body, and switches out to Brandon. And it's going to be the Chi-Yu that comes in place of that Landorus for Brandon. I wonder if Jacob's Landorus went for a U-turn of its own. So we're going to see here, no, it did go for the Topping Tantrum, tried to catch the Goodra on a weakness, didn't get that in the first place. The Struggle Bug going to come in, go ahead and hit on both Pokemon, going to lower the special attack off both Pokemon. It's going to be impacting both of them significantly, as we do see a Muddy Water come out from the Goodra. It's going to hit the Landorus with super effective damage, and that Struggle Bug really come into play here. Oh, an accuracy drop onto the Volcarona, so now its attacks have a decent chance to miss. But that Muddy Water is a really good call out with that Struggle Bug on Jacob's Volcarona, because that Muddy Water would have probably knocked out that Landorus if it weren't for that special attack drop. And actually, I forgot to look at it on the screen, but it looks like that the Hisuian Goodra is an Assault Vest variant, so it's not going to be going for any shelters anytime soon. So a special attacking variant, not typically a type of Goodra that most people would expect here from a Pokemon like Goodra, but it's pretty powerful if you get it to set up, which is why that Struggle Bug had to come in play. But because it was Muddy Water, it did take an accuracy drop for its trouble. So now it has a chance to potentially miss any of its attacks. Chi-Yu going to come retreat back to Brandon, and he's going to send out the Landorus to make sure that the Landorus of Jacob doesn't get any more attacks going that could potentially threaten the Goodra with damage. Now that it's a second stage drop of attack, Volcarona just going to protect here. Jacob staying in here, so he's going to go for a Stomping Tantrum. He tried to hit the Chi-Yu, but now goes into an immunity of Landorus, which is immune to ground types because of its flying type. And the Muddy Water will connect onto the Landorus after hitting the protective of Volcarona, and it will go down to that Muddy Water. Jacob now down a Pokemon. And now we're going to see Jacob go ahead and send him his Azumarill. And Azumarill on Pokemon you typically don't really see now because of the widespread plague of Urshifu that is going around from time to time. It's been dominating mostly every tournament that's been regulated here in Psychoturo or even the online scene, as a lot of Urshifus were popularized in this regulation. Jacob gonna go ahead and retreat his Volcarona. For the last remaining Pokemon we get to see in the background is gonna be the Iron Hands coming in here. So we're gonna see. Oh, we're also gonna see the Goodra switch out. So it doesn't want to deal with that special attack drop any further. Gonna go ahead and bring in an Amoonguss. Hopefully anticipating a Play Rough on its side. And now we're gonna see Jacob go for Terastallization. It's gonna be the Azumarill gonna be going ahead and going for that Terastallization into the Water type to boost its Water type attacks, such as Aqua Jet and Liquidation, that it could potentially be going for. And it'll be hitting for a good amount of damage as well with that huge power here. But Rock Slide comes out first from that Landorus. Going ahead and get a critical hit on the Azumarill, but it won't get a flinch here as Azumarill gets to attack with that Liquidation into the Landorus, so it will be a knockout. Down goes the Landorus for Brandon, and both of them are gone from each side. Azumarill got in here for free, and it's not in the best spot now because you're gonna have to deal with an Amoonguss that can redirect its Water type attacks into that Azumarill, into that Amoonguss with that Rage Powder, but it also has to deal with a Water type Hisuian Goodra that it hits pretty poorly against with Liquidation, so it probably will be resorting to Play Roughs now for that Blue Bunny. And oh my goodness, a wide array of attacks for Brandon's Goodra. We see Thunderbolt, we see Draco Meteor. I did see that Brandon walked in Thunderbolt here, but we're going to see a fake out into the Amoonguss, so he's not going to go ahead and get that Rage Powder off. Goodra goes for the Thunderbolt into the Azumarill. It's actually going to be taking a knockout here. That's a really strong Goodra for it to go for the Thunderbolt and knock out an Azumarill just like that. And that's a neutral turn for both sides, and now we're down to Volcarona Iron Hands for Jacob, while Brandon has a relatively healthy Goodra, a really good healthy Amoonguss, and a Chi-Yu in the back that's ready to go ahead and go for something like that Heat Wave. And we're gonna see, Brandon just go for the Spore onto the Iron Hands, and Overheat comes out from his Volcarona first. It's gonna go ahead and do a lot of damage. It is a knockout, so Amoonguss not gonna get the Spore off now, but it has to deal with that Goodra now that it's has special attack drop by 2 stages. Goodra goes for that Muddy Water. It will connect on both Pokemon. How much damage would this be doing? It did a good amount of damage with the Pokemon the first time. It's enough for a knockout. And no accuracy drops on the Iron Hand, so if it went for the Wild Charge, it is going to be able to get that knockout, and it will go ahead and go for the Wild Charge and get the knockout. But Brandon still has a Chi-Yu in the back that has a Choice Specs and Overheat. So if any attack just lands onto the Iron Hands, it's game over for Jacob. And it's a pretty high likelihood he will get that connection to that to that Iron Hands of Jacob. Brandon can feel the victory coming. He will lock in that Overheat, and it does connect, and that is the set over. Iron Hand's gonna get knocked up by that Chi-Yu, and that's a 2-0 for Brandon Davis as he wins round 1 of the 3rd Gym Challenge Summer Tournament with a clean 2-0 victory in his favor. Although a few key takeaways here from that series is that Jacob made really good adaptations with that Volcarona, going for that Overheat and not relenting to go for that Terra that costed him game 1, but it might have been beneficial in that situation because I don't know if Terra Water was necessarily required to get that knockout onto that Landorus, because I don't think it was because of that weakness and with all that huge power ability that it currently contains. And well, we may never know that answer anytime soon, but what we do have an answer for is our next round, which will be coming up right after our break here, so you don't want to go away. Go ahead and stay tuned. We'll be back soon.